It's over between Jadon Sancho and Ten Hag. They've made up. Sancho is back in training, eligible for selection again. But will Jadon Sancho be staying at Manchester United this summer? That is what we're going to discuss. And what actually happened? Did he apologise? Why have they made up? Did INEOS play a big part of that in that? Because Ashworth has started work today. Ashworth is making some big changes, working on some big things at United and pushing Sancho to apologise, as well as working on some moves with Barada officially starting on Monday. Massive updates on United's transfer plans, reports that we are looking at Rabiot. What is the latest on Agate? What is the latest on De Ligt? Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and this is your 10-minute Manchester United news roundup. We've got to start with the Jadon Sancho situation. That's obviously the big story coming about. Jadon Sancho has returned to Manchester United training. So let's dive into this story in a bit more detail. What is the context surrounding this? So as you can see, Sancho there spotted in training. It was said Jadon Sancho held positive talks with Erik Ten Hag and will be available for selection moving forward, according to Rob Dawson. He also said that Erik Ten Hag held a positive meeting with Jadon Sancho at Carrington this week. Jadon Sancho reflected on past issues and both agreed to draw the line and move on. He's now back at Man United training, sources confirm. Sancho will not travel to Norway for Man United's friendly against Rosenborg on Monday, having resumed training a few days later than others, and that's apparently because he was in the Champions League final. However, he will be available for selection after that, and the focus is now on Jadon taking a full part in pre-season, United sources confirmed. So the first bit of the story says Sancho had positive talks with Ten Hag. There was a meeting, it went positively, they passed the issue, they've agreed to draw a line and move on. Now, it's not actually been confirmed whether Sancho apologised, and what is now heavily being suggested, what I'm going to get into, is that INEOS made an intervention here. Now, Sancho won't travel to Norway, but that's because he's trained a little bit later than everyone else, but he will be available for the next pre-season games. You then have Romano saying things like Mason Greenwood is leaving, but for Jadon Sancho, the situation could now be open. Graham Bailey saying that Sancho made the first move and Ten Hag welcomed the decision, although neither side is yet confirming if an apology was made. Sancho held talks with United this week, which prompted a meeting with Erik Ten Hag, is what's been said as well. And then it was said that Sancho is closer to staying at United. It was then said that one thing Manchester United do not want to do is loan out a player without covering his wages or obligation to buy. Dan Ashworth has a huge focus on harmony, on improving the communication and alignment of people within the club. Jason Wilcox knows Jadon Sancho, working with him in the City Academy. I think they have been a big push from INEOS management and their appointees to fix the situation between Erik Ten Hag and Sancho, said the Muppeteers. Now, I want to talk about two things. First thing I want to say is I think this was INEOS's doing. I think this was Dan Ashworth's doing. Now, what Dan Ashworth's biggest thing is squad harmony. That's one of the things he did at Newcastle, creating an environment, creating a positive environment, squad harmony. It's almost resetting the culture. That's Dan Ashworth's specialist. And I believe that Jadon Sancho had talks with the INEOS hierarchy, particularly the likes of Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox. And they probably said to him, you've got to make up with Ten Hag, you've got to draw a line under this, mate, that you've got to be professional. I don't think there was a big apology and they both massively made up. I think that INEOS intervened and all of that and made a stance. And I think that Ashworth was probably the guy saying, you need to make up, we need squad harmony, we can't have you doing this and that, we don't know if we're going to sell you or not. I think Ashworth has probably said something along the lines of Sancho of, look, we'll look to sell you, we know you're not happy, but we want you to make up with it with the gaffer. We're going to tell the gaffer to make up with you. We want this sorted, because at the end of the day, if teams see that you're in quite a strong position with the manager again and that we're not desperate to sell you, we also might get better offers. Now, if I'm going to be totally honest, I would still sell Jadon Sancho. Do I think that Jadon Sancho is a better option to have than Anthony on the right wing? Yes. And Jadon Sancho and Ahmed on the right and Rashford and Garnacho on the left is good options. I do think that Jadon Sancho is a good player, but has Jadon Sancho done enough in a Manchester United shirt? No. Has he been good in Man United shirt? Not particularly. Do I think he's going to be brilliant if he comes back and plays in Ten Hag next season? Not particularly. I think he's a good player, but I think it'd be better for him and better for us to move him on. Like, I generally was so gassed when we signed Sancho. I thought, wow, this is brilliant. But considering he refused to play for this club for 4 months and this whole squabble and forcing a move to Borussia Dortmund, I think him coming back and getting into the team, I know it's a new hierarchy, I know INEOS want to be positive, but I just don't think it sends a positive message. I think for me, we should cash in on Sancho. Now, if we can't cash in on Sancho and the only option is to send him out on loan, I understand keeping him, but I'm just hoping now that Sancho is playing in pre-season games and has made up with Ten Hag, clubs like Dortmund will actually give us, a 35, 40 million pound offer for Sancho. Same with Juventus, rather than lowballing and trying to get a loan deal. I think this is INEOS's plan. And Ashworth is planned to be like, you know what, let's get Sancho to make up with Ten Hag, back in the squad, back in pre-season training. So teams stop giving us loan offers for Sancho because we're not going to loan Sancho. We've already loaned him out once. We get a permanent offer. And I think if they get a permanent offer, they will sell him. I think Sancho is interested in joining Juventus. And I think that probably is the smartest decision for Sancho to go. But I definitely think that this was some kind of INEOS intervention. It was said that Jadon Sancho is not expected to return to Borussia Dortmund, even if the player and Dortmund could well imagine working together again. The situation is difficult, and the 45 to 50 million euro valuation is too high for Dortmund. The only chance is if they sell a player and United don't want to do a loan deal. And United keep briefing they're not doing a loan deal for Sancho. So maybe Sancho making up with Ten Hag is saying to clubs like Dortmund, yeah, your tactic of waiting to the end of the window to try and get him on loan because he hadn't made up with the manager is not going to work, because he's made up with the manager, he's available for selection now. We're not as desperate to sell him as we first were. But I want to talk about Ashworth. I want to talk about Omar Barada. I want to talk about some changes potentially going on at United. So Omar Barada will officially begin his role as Manchester United CEO tomorrow, and Dan Ashworth officially began as Manchester United Sport Director on Monday. Now, reportedly, it said that Dan Ashworth and Erik Ten Hag are ready to move Harry Maguire out of United, and one of Dan Ashworth's first moves would be moving out big star players. There was a list of 7 big name players that Dan Ashworth wants to move out, which I believe was Donny van de Beek, which is already done, Maguire, Lindelof, Casemiro, which is 4, Sancho, Greenwood, which is 5, 6. And I think the 7th was Ericsson, maybe, or was it McTominay? But there was, I think he said like 7 names he wanted to move out, and then Pelistri and obviously Mejbri were people he said, well, we can get a bit of funds here. You know, Ashworth's ready to make moves. Now, interestingly, the first move that Dan Ashworth wants to make is a new contract for Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo is a priority for Man United, getting him under a new contract, and Ashworth will want to accelerate talks with him once the Euros is done. But I'm going to get into an old report on Ashworth to show you the impact that Dan Ashworth could be having at United. Following Dan Ashworth's arrival, Man United can now concentrate on pushing a deal through for top target Xerxes, who is seen as the perfect fit to provide Højlund with some support. Apparently, Dan Ashworth came in, he approved Xerxes, he really pushed Man United to get to Xerxes. That is a heavily Dan Ashworth influenced deal, and that Dan Ashworth wants to bring another number 6 to United. Dan Ashworth got into United, said, you know, we need another number 6. Let's push ahead with the Xerxes deal. We want Maguire out. We want 7 players out. Let's get Jadon Sancho to make up with Ten Hag. And all of a sudden, United are running like a proper club. We're getting excited for the transfer window. There's a bit of squad harmony involved. Sancho, Rashford laughing in training, and hopefully they create a better environment for Ten Hag, not just structurally with footballing people around him, but help player power issues. That's one thing that INEOS are really focusing on, is getting and ending player power. If you look at the INEOS hierarchy here, and I know this isn't very big and very clear, but you've got Ratcliffe, Blanc and Brailsford at the top. You've got Barada, Dan Ashworth, Vivel, and Jason Wilcox below them. And then on the coaching staff, you've got obviously Fletcher will be there with Steve McLaren, but just above them, Rene Hacken and Ruud van Nistelrooy working with Ten Hag. INEOS are really building that best-in-class hierarchy. So, what is the latest on transfer news and Manchester United's transfer targets? This is what was said by Fabrizio Romano. The expectation is also to get De Ligt done. He said Xerxes done. The expectation is for United to also get De Ligt done. He also said that Manchester United is still in discussions with PSG and the agents of Manuel Ugarte. Conversations are ongoing. Man United are going very strong in the market now, also with outgoings. Matthijs De Ligt to Manchester United will be done soon, said Nick, and that negotiations between United and Bayern for De Ligt are going well. So it looks like De Ligt is going to be the next signing for United. It looks like it's going well. It looks like things are pushing ahead well. Apparently that deal's been approved by the INEOS hierarchy. The same as experience, seems good value for money. But we also know that United are looking at Braithwaite, we're looking at Euro. We're working at 3 centre-back deals now, and I think only 2 of them will be done. So who misses out? And then another report coming in saying that Man United is seriously considering a move for Rabiot. Now, this isn't the first time a report's come out this summer and last summer and the summer before that we're seriously looking for a move for Rabiot. If I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, I think that Rabiot's agent likes to link him with Manchester United as a bit of like agent game, trying to trap more interest in him, try and get his name out in the press more. I don't actually think that Manchester United are all in for Rabiot, if I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. And I quickly want to talk about Desiree Doué, Xavi Simons and the wing situation. I touched upon this in my live stream. Tottenham are really pushing ahead for Desiree Doué. Bayern Munich have made a bid for Desiree Doué, whereas United are waiting for the sales of potentially Greenwood or maybe even Sancho. But we do really like Desiree Doué, but it looks like Elise, we could miss out on him. Now, obviously, Man United have made approaches behind the scenes for Xavi Simons. Vivel obviously worked at the RB clubs. Xavi Simons was at the RB clubs. Obviously, Ruud van Nistelrooy was at PSV and Xavi Simons was at PSV. And they think potentially with Ruud van Nistelrooy being assistant coach, it could help Man United attract Xavi Simons, who really wanted the Bayern Munich move. But Bayern Munich are now focusing on Desiree Doué, which means he could go back to RB Leipzig or he's got United. Now, Fabrizio Romano said on Xavi Simons last year that had he not stayed at PSG, United are in pole position to sign him. They really like the player. Vival really likes the player. The INEOS hierarchy really like Xavi Simons, and there is some rumours about Man United applying for Xavi Simons on loan, so that's definitely one to keep an eye on, but we need to wait for more credibility on that. Anyway, that is your 10-minute roundup. Please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching, and bye.